The Knicks postgame show is presented by Tri-State Audi. Visit your Tri-State area Audi dealer today. Knicks blowing out the Suns. Julius Randle, another monster game with 28 points and 16 rebounds. Jalen Brunson's going to join us in a couple of moments, back from the three-game absence because of the sore hip. He had 24. All Knicks starters in double figures, including Mitchell Robinson, who had 10 points and 10 rebounds. And the Knicks start the new year in style, beating Phoenix 102-83. Great to have you with us from our Delta MSG studios. Bill Pito along with Monica McNutt and Alan Hahn. This coach, Alan, loves defense, and Tom Thibodeau is going to be having sweet dreams tonight. Knicks give up 11 points in the first quarter. They give up 31 points in the first half, and they never look back.
Yeah, this was a defensive gem, and it's not really easy coming off a road trip, and you really only get a day, and you've got to get right back at it again playing at home. There was no hangover. There was nothing for the Knicks when it comes to a road trip. A lot of times you come back, and it's hard to get started, but the building was rocking. It was an early start today, and the defense was certainly there. And on this game, I mean, think about it. The Suns didn't get any offensive rebounding whatsoever in this game. Mitchell Robinson won for the first time in a head-to-head matchup with DeAndre Ayton. And Ayton was a key piece in this game. It was your matchup to watch. And Mitchell Robinson had a double-double, 10 points, 10 rebounds. And DeAndre Ayton had 12 points, but a very quiet 12 points and 7 rebounds. So Mitchell Robinson got to outplay a guy that he always looks at because that was the #1 pick in his draft. Well, Mitchell Robinson was a second-round pick. So that was a personal matchup you love to see there. Knicks' three-point defense was also fantastic. 9 for 35 the Suns were in this game, and they were 3 for 17 in the first half. Why does that matter? I know there's no Devin Booker, but by the last 4 games, this team has shot 48% from 3.
Whew, that's hot.
So, yeah, they cooled them off early with really good hustle, effort, and defense.
All right, on top of all that, let me do my best Alan Hahn. A little stat I want everybody to lean in on.
It better be useful.
I think it's going to be good because it's going to speak to this team's ability to defend. Today we saw, you talk about that 11-point first quarter, but they did it without fouling as well. They only sent the Suns to the free throw line a total of 7 times
Love
in
that
this
stat.
ball game. Come on now. Like, it doesn't get much better than
So
that.
you play
That's
defense without fouling.
Without fouling.
And that is something Tom Thibodeau has said they had to fix because that was a bit of a problem on the road trip.
All right, and the other headline here, in addition to the defense, Monica, Jalen Brunson missed the last 3 games. Didn't look like it.
Not at all.
He played great.
Not at all. And you appreciate the patience, the mindfulness of whatever he was dealing with that hip because he is so important. I mean, the first quarter to the second quarter, he takes 3 shots. Second quarter, he lines up 16 points. I mean, this is a guy, we always talk about it. He sets the pace and the tempo for the team. Now, he got plenty of help today. Julius also played really, really well. But when he takes shots, you trust that they are good shots. He takes shots in rhythm, and very rarely do you see him play at a rushed pace. And so I think in the second quarter, we just got reminded of what it is that makes Jalen so special.
Yeah, what makes him special, obviously, he can be the engine of your offense, which also allows Julius Randle to just focus on being a scorer, which he certainly did a lot today, which we'll talk about. For Brunson coming back, just seeing him play so efficiently early on, getting to his spots, he doesn't look at all worse for the wear after missing a couple of games with the hip issue.
All right, so the Knicks win at 102-83. You look at as the guys talked about, you guys have been Suns from downtown, 10 out of 37. Really struggling, rebounding. The Knicks continue to do well in that category. And how about the fact, yes, the Suns only committed 8 turnovers, but the Knicks also committed only 8 turnovers. And Jalen Brunson was great this afternoon. And we're now joined by Jalen Brunson. Hey, Jalen, congratulations on coming back, and congratulations on a great win. We know how you hate to miss games. You missed the last 3, but yeah, you come out today with no rust. How'd you do it? You had 16 of your 24 in the second quarter.
I hate sitting out. I mean, it was, yeah, we're back, so we'll forget the past. But I'm just happy I can contribute and help these guys. I can still be better. I can still be more efficient. We can still close out quarters and games better. Now I still got room for improvement, and I'm overall happy with how we played.
Outstanding stuff, Jalen. First quarter, 0 for 3. Second quarter, the 16 points that Pito just mentioned. For you, when you're out there, what are you looking at that allows you to flip a switch? Excuse me. You must be contagious.
I'm not the only one. All right, cool.
Right, it's you. It's your fault.
I'm just staying aggressive. You know, I gotta have the same mentality whether I'm missing shots or making everything. And so I got a great coaching staff. I got a great set of teammates, you know, who keep me confident. And so I'm gonna try to make the right play every time I'm on the court. And sometimes the right play is getting the ball in the basket. So it's a mentality thing. It's a focus thing. I just gotta keep that focus.
See, Jalen, we're all choked up about this, you returning to the lineup, obviously, but In all kidding aside, defensively, though, this was a gem, especially that first half. After a road trip, a lot of times it's not easy to adjust. You come home and, get right at it with a game. But this team was ready from the very beginning of this game, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were ready to go. We knew that on that Texas trip that we had games that we could have won. And it's things that are the little things that can separate a win from a loss. And so we got to focus on the little things. The offense is going to be there. Obviously, individually, defensive stuff, we're going to be focused on that. But are we going to help? Are we going to tag, get rebounds? Are we just going to stay focused where the main goal is winning? And we got to keep doing that.
Hey, Jalen, thanks so much for joining us. Congrats on the win, and great to have you back. We'll see you on Wednesday, okay?
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, that first quarter, Monica, the Suns scored only 11 points. It's the best Knicks defensive quarter of the entire season. 23-11 Knicks after one quarter. They only gave up 11 points.
Come on,
and Phoenix was up 4-0, so it was really 23-7 after that. Amazing.
Excuse me, we got to relish that. It was something that Julius said to Rebecca post-game. He said, we were flying around, helping each other, and contesting shots. And I think the notion of really honing in on that is what we saw in the first quarter. Of course, offensively, this is a team that also got going and was able to find one another, shooting the ball well. You saw the ball moving totally on the game. You got 26 assists on the 36 baskets that were made. And so the ball moved really well offensively. But I can remember in college, my team, we hung our hat on defense too. And so when you hear that flying around and you're connected on that side and the defense is working the way it's supposed to, that also is incredibly energizing. So offensively, the rim starts to seem a little bit bigger and everybody is feeling good about the way that they're able to contribute.
Yeah, and it's not like, sometimes you shoot the ball well, then you become a lot more enthusiastic about playing defense. The Knicks didn't shoot the ball well in the first quarter. I know we're showing made shots. Of course, they did get 23 points, but it wasn't as if they were lighting it up and so everybody was just feeling good. The tone was set, like you said, it was 4-0, and they just kept coming at them defensively. That's the identity of this team. It was lost for a couple of games there. I think they found it in Houston. Once they got through that first quarter in Houston, you could just see things were turning, and they were looking more like themselves again, closing out, just helping, and all those things that you expect to see from this team during the winning streak. That's what they were doing. You saw it in the first quarter, and that's a good sign. That means that they kind of maybe realize this is who we are, this is who we have to be, and they got right back to it.
Then the second quarter, Alan, the Knicks at one point outscored the Suns 21-0. At one point, the lead was 32 points. Suns ended up with 31 points at the half. The Knicks' best defensive half of the season.
Yeah, and again, that second quarter was a lot of fun for all the fans, certainly in the building, at the Garden. It's still just past the holiday season now. You still have like a good mood around everyone. And, what you started to see, though, was a Knicks team that just started to click, and led by Jalen Brunson, who himself maybe took a quarter, got himself into.
He didn't score it all in the first quarter,
loose,
Alan.
Right?
He didn't score it all in the first quarter. At 16 in the second.
You got to get loose sometimes. Haven't played in a week, so you want to just start feeling good, get into your rhythm, and start attacking. And Quentin Grimes, can we talk about his playmaking ability, not just the ability to shoot the three? And how about Emmanuel quickly? He had a great road trip, and now the ball's kind of out of his hands. Now that Jalen Brunson is back, now he's moved off to the off-guard position, and so quickly having a huge impact. Grimes, of course, his usual impact as well. But that second quarter was a fun quarter, got the building going. And, a lot of people probably ask, okay, so only 11 points in that first quarter. Isn't that got to be a Knicks record? It's amazing. The Knicks record is 7.
Dun, dun, dun.
But, remember, there were some really tough defensive teams around here in the 90s and early 2000s. And so those teams did a lot of that, but this is pretty close to that. If you think about it, 11 points in today's NBA to hold the team, that's pretty impressive stuff.
Really, really strong defensive performance. But there's just a lot of good to take away from this particular win. I think as a collective, as a team, the confidence 1 through 9. You mentioned Quentin Grimes. There's that block he got on Mikal Bridges. I think it was the second half. But that's just an incredible defensive play, a smart basketball IQ play in terms of timing that up and not committing a foul. So.
Can I also say, too, that it's, sometimes these are little things, but they're big things. They haven't beaten the Suns in 9 games. They've lost 9 straight games to the Suns. They haven't won at the Garden against the Suns since 2017. Like, I know they only come here once a year, but it doesn't matter. Like, it's little things like that. Let's put an end to that. Let's just take care of business right now. They are injury-riddled, yes, but you come in, you take care of business.
Absolutely.
That's what this team did.
Nick shorthanded, too. Don't forget, R.J. Barrett's still out with the finger injury, and Derrick Rose, sore knee, he didn't play. Coming up, we'll hear from Knicks coach Tom Thibodeau. And are we calling it McNutt and Bolts? McNuts and Bolts?
Yeah, I like
or
that.
Monica's Monitor? Breaking out some plays when we come back after this.
The Knicks postgame show is presented by Audi. Visit your tri-state area Audi dealer today.
The Knicks lost at San Antonio Thursday. Spurs in New York. This time around Wednesday, pregame at 7, game at 7:30. Knicks blowing out the Suns this afternoon, 102-83. For more, over now to Alan and Monica, guys.
Thank you, Bill. And by the way, facing the Spurs that soon after that game in San Antonio is a good thing, because I imagine the Knicks are going to want some payback on that performance. But meanwhile, we've got this win to talk about. And this win had a lot to do with defense, especially early on. A great sequence here.
Yeah, there's going to be more pointing on this one than drawing, but I just want to do this one time. Woo! This is going to be a team on a string, okay? Defense on a string and flying around like Julius Randle said in the postgame. Just watch the way that they're connected, okay? Ball's going to go here in this handoff screen action. You got Jalen fighting through, good communication, probably some talking here by Mitch and Quick in terms of telling Jalen to get through, get under. Ball's going to swing. Or excuse me, going back to the other side. Again, more communication. Quick is there to challenge CP3. You got Quentin jumping in here, helping the helper. Then another rotation. You got two on the side right now challenging Mikal Bridges. Who's that? Julius is going to get back to the corner. And then, again, flying around. Quick is back to contest. Mitch is probably communicating, talking, high hedge. The whole thing, we're protecting the paint, right? Keeping Chris Paul out of the paint. There's just plenty of movement here. Connectivity, flying around is my favorite way to describe an active defense. So much to really appreciate on this defensive possession.
Yeah, I mean, that's, the way you described this so frenetically is literally what they were doing. The fighting over the screen part is the most important, but then the help, and then the helping the helper and getting back to yours. That's a trust factor that this team has had to develop, and they have mostly throughout this month of December. Okay, but we've got to show offense. Why?
Yes.
Because Monica loves offense. So here at Monica's Monitor, we've got to show offense, and this is Jalen Brunson in the second quarter where he really got it going.
Absolutely. We talk so much about the rhythm that Jalen plays with. All right, he's going to come. We got a screen action coming. Watch the action with Jericho Sims there, right? Jericho's going to stay wide, doesn't roll this time. We're coming back to it because we trust Jalen that much. Handoff here. Jalen's able to get just enough space, the space that he needs, but he's been able to bounce this rock and find his rhythm. He's going to pull up here and knock down one of his 2 threes in the ball game. Of course, the defender makes a decision to go under.
Mistake.
Not so good for you. Great for the Knicks. Jalen makes him pay. Good looking stuff there.
Yeah.
Oh, we'd love to see it. Welcome
2 or
back.
3 from downtown from
Yeah.
Jalen Brunson, had 16 points in that second quarter. And that is, again, what you expect to see from him, where he has that pocket of the game where he could just take over. That's certainly what he did in that second quarter. And then, of course, Julius Randle got it done throughout the entire game. We go back to Bill and see what's up with the 150.
All right, guys, still to come as well. Tom Thibodeau's post-game comments. But up next, we got Ja Morant last night from Memphis against Sacramento and much more when we come back. Up next here on MSG, it's the better half hour. Knicks beat the Suns today, 102-83. Julius Randle, 28 points, 16 boards, 6 assists. Here are his post-game comments.
What did you guys do right in terms of playing with the lead today? Because I know earlier in your tips you mentioned you wanted to see you guys improve on that.
Yeah, just stuck to our principles defensively. That's how we were able to build the lead by getting stops, and we just continued to do that.
The difference that with Jalen back in the lineup, just kind of what kind of difference?
It just opens the game up a lot more. Takes the pressure off of me, Quick, or whoever it is, to have to make plays all the time. And Jay does a great job of getting into the paint, scoring, just making plays for everybody.
Julius, just running around the last 15 games or so, you're averaging right around 30 a game. What do you attribute that to?
Just my teammates. Getting the ball to me in the right spots. Getting me going, especially early, and just a focus and effort. Night in, night out.
You're doing it in a different way than you did a couple of years ago when you were playing so well. But are there things that you were doing then that you feel like you can take from the way you were playing 2 years ago and apply it to now, or is that not relatable?
Honestly, it's a lot easier now. I attribute a lot of that to Jalen, obviously. Quick. Our guards. QG space on the floor. I'm not having to work as hard, to get buckets or, score. So the game is a lot easier on my body. So.
I know it was important for you to get that first All-Star appearance 2 years ago. Would it still be important for you? Is that something?
I mean, it's obviously, you work hard to put yourself in a position to do that. So it would be amazing. I love it. Not necessarily for me, obviously it's great, but I love it to be able to experience it with my family, to be able to, experience it with my son, both of my sons, because they're the one that really make my wife too, they're the people that really make the true sacrifice of letting me dedicate myself to the game the way I've been able to do, summers and night in, night out. They're the one that's making the true sacrifices, so I love to be able to let them enjoy it and, see the rewards of it and stuff like that. So that's why it's important. But for me, whatever the team needs, honestly, for me to help them, night in, night out, if I got to come in and play 40 minutes, 25, whatever it is, I just want to help the team. So.
Julius, they scored the first 4 points of the game. You guys scored the next 14. Really wasn't close after that. Doesn't that surprise you against a team such as this?
Yeah, doesn't really surprise us. I mean, we know that, defensively, we had to get back to our ways, and we did that in Houston. So we know when we won 8 games in a row, it was big. The defensive end was big for us. So we feel that chemistry and rhythm starting to come back on that end, and offensively, we don't have trouble scoring.
Back now from the Corner 3 presented by Michelob Ultra. A reminder to enjoy every bucket. And Alan, Julius Randle's enjoying everything. You listen to him, he's at peace. Obviously, you have Brunson helping in terms of him having to carry the workload and develop things for himself. But to think where he was last year and now getting chance of MVP from the Garden Faithful, what a change.
Yeah, and it's great to see, because a lot of times what happens here in New York is you get some controversy, you can swallow it up in it, and it could be over for you. And he went through what he went through last year, and he just kept persevering. He said he had to work on himself in the offseason, not just his game, but his mind, and his mind must be in a perfect place right now, because as he just talked about, Monica, he just has to focus on what he's great at, which is scoring, and he's rebounding as well. And he's got guys like Jalen Brunson and Emmanuel Quickly and even Quentin Grimes that are making the game easier for him.
I think 3 seasons ago, one of my first Knicks content days, Julie, we were having this conversation about how you keep yourself going, and we were sort of joking about talking to yourself. But he was serious in that you have to be able to be grounded, to your point, Pito, and understand who you are and what the task is at hand. And so while we laughed about the moment of talking to yourself in the mirror, the idea of kind of finding your balance and being centered and allowing you to grow from some of the things he had to bounce back from last year, I think that is so poignant. And the way he talked about his family, it just shows a young man that is growing in front of our eyes, both as a basketball player and as a man.
All right, guys, so Randle had 28. All 5 Knicks starters in double figures, including Quentin Grimes, who had 12. Here he is after the game, now with Rebecca Harlow.
Quentin, I know, the goal for this team is to hold opponents under 100, but 83 tonight, and what's even more outstanding than that, 31 in the first half. What went into the defensive game plan that was so effective?
We just wanted to kind of go out there and have a tight shell, be together on offense, try to keep the ball at the paint, because we kind of were giving up when we kind of went through that little 5-game drought. But right now, I feel like the past couple of games, we've been kind of being true to ourselves, staying, packing the paint, and just room rotation, just closing out hard to shooters. So I feel like right now we're playing a good game basketball right now.
Can you take me inside kind of the psyche that goes into holding a team to 11 points in a quarter? I mean, there's got to be something said about the way that you came out and punched these guys in the face early.
Yeah, I feel like we just come out with a lot of urgency. We feel like going off to Houston, we had a really good game. We want to keep building on it going into the new year, and I feel like right now we have a good chance to kind of get back on that winning streak that we had earlier on in the season. It's a long season, going to be ups and downs. So I feel like right now we're doing a great job of just really playing together, playing unselfish. We're just connected on both ends of the court right now.
All right, so, Alan, you're with the team when Grimes has a career-high 33 against Dallas, off that against the Spurs, but 19 against Houston and 12 more this afternoon.
Yeah, and he has been a perfect fit, and you heard Julius talk about it as well. Just the way he fits in this starting lineup is perfect, and that is all the decision that Tom Thibodeau has had to make with all the players that he's got. This is the thing to do.
Okay, Quentin was being cool, but I'm telling you what you're saying. Don't be the one. Don't be the one that gives up the bucket. Don't be the one. That's what you're telling one another on defense when you're playing like that.
All right, we'll hear from Emmanuel quickly after this.
No,
Now this is an upgrade. And away we go. Hey, what's up? I can get used to this.
The best way to see the world is to experience it with travel upgrades and private events from Chase Sapphire Reserve. Chase, make more of what's yours.
There's a reason every Odyssey is named after the Odyssey. Because the world's most famous story isn't about staying put. It's about being there. So for those who want a story to tell, we have a world full of places to start.
Up next here on MSG, it's a better half hour. Knicks beat the Suns. Another solid game from Emmanuel Quickly, 15 points. And here he is after the game with Rebecca Harlow.
Quick, just 11 points for the Suns in that first quarter, but what was just as impressive, no fouls on the half of the Knicks. You know, can you just describe to me how you guys were able to defend without fouling so effectively?
Yeah, we were all tied together. Everybody was in the gaps. Really just what we've been preaching all season long is just being in the gaps for each other, everybody communicating, talking. So that's what we try to do.
All the starters were in double figures tonight. There was a run there where you guys outscored the Suns 21-0. From your perspective, offensively, what worked so well?
We got guys that can make shots. Julius demands double teams. Jalen demands double teams. So when they get in the paint, create for others, we get open shots. Mitch on the glass. So it was a total team effort. The bench came in, gave us a great spark. So it was everybody.
Over the last couple of games, you know, you've held your own, but then tonight you get to play alongside of Jalen. What was that like for the two of you to be out there together?
Honestly, it felt kind of normal, like we had been doing it for a while. He can play with or without the ball, which makes him very easy to play with, unselfish, high-character guy as well.
And emphasize the points, the assists. I want to talk again about the turnovers because we talked about that in the pregame, Monica. He's got 5 turnovers in his last 180 minutes or so of playing time.
Love it. Love it. Again,
that's incredible.
It's fantastic. And I think particularly because we've had the chance to see Quick since he got drafted, right? The game is slowing down. Mm-hmm. And that is always a sign of maturity. It is a sign of getting better. His decision-making, his thought process, I should say, matches what he's trying to do physically. And so then you see less turnovers. And, of course, he's been able to find his spots on the floor to be able to score. I mean, you look at what he was doing over the month of December. I believe 15 points and flirting with that 40% mark from the field. Like, that's terrific. And so as he continues to see more quality minutes, he got thrown into the lineup to start, played well, responded well. His confidence is growing, and that's what you're seeing on the floor.
And moved off the ball in this game because he moved to the 2 spot, letting Jalen Brunson be like the lead guard. And it wasn't something that he struggled with, that adjustment. Didn't want to have to prove something. Oh, I got to continue to prove I can score. He just played with the game, let the game decide what's going to happen for him. And by the way, on brand for him, he loves the Garden. He loves shooting in this building. 6 of 12, 3 of 6 from downtown. His home shooting numbers are off the charts for him. He's getting better on the road. He had a pretty good road trip, but he loves shooting at the Garden, and it showed with his numbers today.
We were wondering what would happen with Brunson back in the lineup. Quickly didn't fall off in quality, maybe a little bit in point production, but not in quality of play.
It's similar to when he gets to run alongside Derek, particularly early when he got here initially. So, yeah, and Jalen's just so easy to play with. Like, it's a beautiful thing.
All right, so the Knicks are now 20-18. We're standing by to listen in to Tom Thibodeau's post-game comments. Knicks win it. Villanova reunion. Championships in college. Chris Paul as well. Brunson and Bridges with the Wildcats in college. Up next here on MSG, it is the better half hour. Knicks starting the new year in style today, beating the Suns 102-83. Great defense in the first half. We're still waiting for Knicks coach Tom Thibodeau, and oftentimes here, Monica, the D starts with Mitchell Robinson, and he went for 10 points and 10 rebounds.
10 points, 10 rebounds, a double-double. And if you remember on the breakdown over at Monica's Monitor, I bet that he was talking and communicating, because you got to quarterback the defense if you're going to be a guy that anchors the defense. And so, Han, we talked about it, this being a matchup that he looked forward to. I think it's safe to say that Mitchell Robinson got his victory versus DeAndre Ayton in that head-to-head matchup, as well as the team tonight. But Mitch is active, And I know I joke with him, but there's a little bit of truth in every joke. He's staying off the floor in terms of tumbling around, like he's grabbing rebounds.
Yes.
His hands are ready. He's been terrific around the rim. Again, more growth. You love to see it.
His energy early was great. Now it's the most important. And on the road trip, you saw it in Dallas, you saw it in Houston. In San Antonio, he just didn't seem to have it, and the Knicks defense was affected by it. He is, as you mentioned, so important to their defense because of his ability to block shots, change shots, and defensive rebound as well. And you talked about the communication aspect.
Yep.
Before the road trip started, if you remember in a postgame after a loss, he said, you know what? It's not time to be nice anymore. It's time to let guys know if you're not in the right place, I have to tell them, get your butt over here. And he said it with authority. And you can see him have a little bit more of that impact defensively, not just with his physicality, but also with his voice, which we all know if you follow him on social media, he likes to use.
You know, what's really interesting to me is during the 5-game losing streak as compared to the 8-game winning streak, the defense just fell apart.
Yes.
And now, in the last 2 games, the defense has been at another level again. How do you explain that?
Well, you can argue really going back to that Dallas game, their defense was very good. Luka was just ridiculous.
Improbable.
And then obviously what happened in the last minute is hard for anybody to explain. But they had to find themselves again defensively, and it can happen at times. You know, whether you have a couple of injuries, you miss a few guys in your lineup, and now you have new people coming in that have to play, and they've got to adjust. This has been more of a defensive focus lineup since he went to the 9-man rotation. And the numbers tell you, despite what you saw in the 5-game losing streak, overall, the numbers told you they were the best defensive team in the league. Number 1 in several categories, 2 or 3.
But they had given up 110 at least in each of those losses.
Right.
But
one went to overtime.
So this is, we can flip the script a little bit to something that I know I grappled with last year at points. It goes formula over result, right? And formulaically, especially if you look at like Chicago. Chicago was another down the stretch, you kind of lose it. You know what I mean?
That was a heartbreaking.
Right. The principles defensively are there and have been there. Now you ran into a hot Sixer squad, an improbable Luka.
Remember,
the 2 losses, the other
on Christmas Day,
Dallas.
that first half was as good defensively as you can be.
And so,
and Joel Embiid went off because Mitchell Robinson got into foul trouble. So little things like that can happen. That's why it's hard to put context sometimes into a group of games when you say, well, the numbers don't look good in that 5 games. Yeah, but what happened in some of these games? Was there an injury? Was there foul trouble? There's all kinds of stuff that can go on. Was there 2 minutes to go and his team, 44 seconds to go and a team scores 12 points? Like 12 points, a lot of points to suddenly add to a total when you now suddenly go from that was a good defensive game to, well, you gave up 120 points. Yeah, but you gave up 120 points in overtime.
Well, also went to overtime, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So, again, I just think from December 4th forward, going with more defensive-minded players, this has worked. And it's proven now. I mean, you have, 10 wins in 15 games? I mean, they have proven that this defense is where it needs to be for them. They don't have a problem scoring. Even during the losing streak, they were still getting 115 points a game. More than enough to win. So they have found a good formula right now for this team to be competitive. And 20 wins before the midpoint of the season for this group is a very good number.
38 games in, 20 and 18. Can't believe we're almost halfway through.
Yeah, almost there.
It is going fast.
When you look now at what's ahead, and it's interesting the way the schedule works out, the Knicks did not play well at San Antonio, and the Spurs are back here on Wednesday night.
The quickest way to get it out of your mind is to run it back, as you say as Hooper. Let's run it back.
They were flat. You called the game like me. They were flat.
It was noticeable in the first quarter, and the Spurs came out a young team. They were all
Dallas
fired
loss
up.
Was crushing. Like I can buy an emotional hangover.
I can tell you from being with that group that day off between those 2 games, everybody was feeling that loss. Like it was just hard to get over, and then to get back at it against a team like the Spurs, where you're like, all right, I mean, don't really know who these guys are. And then those kids came out and just were firing away, couldn't miss. They really felt good about things, and you were chasing the whole rest of that game. That was an emotional letdown game. What the Knicks need on Wednesday now at the Garden is the emotion of the building to get them ready and send a message to the Spurs.
They need to hold them suckers to 11 points in the first quarter. That's what they need to do.
That will help. Tom Thibodeau's post-game comments, as always, presented by Chase.
Questions?
You talked before about playing with a lead when you guys are going to run Tay. You were 21-0 in the second quarter, and I don't think you ever let them get within 18 the rest of the way. Just kind of what you saw there.
Yeah, I just thought our guys came out and played really hard defensively, played very unselfish offensively, and sometimes it's difficult to play with a lead like that. But I thought our guys did a really good job of playing tough with the lead, and they can make up ground very quickly. the way they shoot threes, and so that was a big concern. And the rebounding, I think our defense and our rebounding is, we're getting back on track.
What's the difference it makes having Jalen back in the lineup?
Yeah, it's huge. He just gives you a different element in the way he can control the game, and I love the way those guys are all playing together, and they're bringing the best out of each other. I think they're sharing in the responsibility of creating rhythm for the team. They're all sharing in that, and they're playing really well together defensively. And when that happens, good things are going to happen. So you take it possession by possession, play by play, and it's not only obviously what you're doing for yourself, is more importantly, what are you doing for the team? And I thought we played very unselfishly on both sides of the ball.
Hey, Tom, you've slotted in Emmanuel quickly now at point guard when Jalen's out, or moved Quentin essentially nominally to the 3 and played him at the 2. What have you seen from him in those games that he's been starting, and do you see a value in him being able to play both? Or?
Yeah, I do, and that's what I like that about our perimeter guys. They're versatile and they can play multiple positions. And Quick can play with the starters. He can play with the bench. He can play the point. He can play the 2. I don't know what he is. He's just a good basketball player, And Quentin can play multiple positions. He can play 2, 3, 4. He can even play the point some. And Julius is versatile. He can handle the ball. He can play the center position. He can play power forward. So we have a lot of parts that are very versatile, interchangeable. I like what the big lineup has done rebounding-wise. When you look at the rebounding numbers over the last 13 games, they're off the charts. So that's I think very important. But as I said, it's the all-around play.
Speaking of that rebounding lineup, Jalen, one of the reasons, something you talk about with this figure all the time, is his ability to create space when there seemingly is none. Did you like what you saw having Jalen in with those 2 bigs? Is that something you might go back to?
Yeah, and we've done it over the last 13 games, and I like Jericho a lot in Isaiah because of the rebounding component. And Jericho has great feet, so defensively it's going to be good. And both Isaiah and Jericho can play make. And so we can play off that. And then when you add in RJ, when you look at RJ's numbers over that stretch, they're through the roof as well.
This run that Julius is on, last 15 games or so, he's averaging 30. What are you seeing specifically beyond just shots going?
Well, I think the rhythm is really good. I think, and it's not just him, RJ as well. Over the last 13, 14 games, their numbers have gone way up, and it's not just what their numbers, it's what the team's numbers are, and that's net rating, that's offense, defense, it's all those things. And so, how do we bring the best out of each other? And I think everyone's embracing their role. They're putting the team first. They're sacrificing for the team. I think. Getting into the 9-man rotation has built better rhythm for us. But, we still got a long way to go, and we got a lot of things that we have to improve upon.
So you mentioned net rating. You guys are top 10 offensive rating, top 10 defensive rating, and top 10 net rating right now. Do you believe that's indicative of a team that's better than the record that's shown?
Well, that's what you strive for. To me, it's how do you get better each day? You want to be strong on both sides of the ball. And so, from the start of training camp, if you studied the numbers every day and then looked at the film, you would see that, okay, defensively, there's a lot of good things that are going on. Offensively, it's always been good. When you look at shot profile, and everyone was concerned, and I was concerned as well with the way we were shooting the 3, but I liked the 3s that we were taking. And then it's not just that, but it's how you attack the rim. And that was the most important thing, is attacking the rim. So we got to the line, we got into the restricted, and then we had a lot of drive, pass, and now we're creating much better rhythm. We're moving without the ball, we're screening off the ball. So I think all those things factor into it.
Julius said that Brunson has made the game a lot easier for him. How has Jalen gone about doing that in your estimation?
It's true point guard play, I think. And Jalen is a playmaker, and when I say that, I mean whatever the game needs, he's going to provide. And so I think Julius at times, certainly last year, we were just trying to get through, and Alec did a great job for us, and I don't want to, minimize what he did, but having Jalen is different, and it allows Julius to move around more, and oftentimes he's playing in space, and when Julius is playing in space, he's very hard to guard, and so, he can mix, his scoring versatility, whether it's the post, pick and roll, he and Jalen in a two-man game, or him just triggering action. I think that's been real good, but I think he gets us organized, and I think once you get the team organized, then you can use your creativity to create advantages, and I think that's what he's done great, and he's a master at creating advantages.
Tom, with Derek, is that something he was dealing with on the trip, or did it happen Saturday?
No, it just popped up. I think he took a knee in the Houston game, and so it just flared up on him.
Tom, when Quentin drives, it feels like his first read is to dump it off to Mitchell. But in the game, last week against Toronto, and even once early in the game today, the defenses know this is coming. Obviously, they watch the film too. And is that a directive to Quentin to just find Mitchell low, or because there are times?
No, I think it's his decision making. I think, we want to attack the rim, obviously, and that the deeper you get, the better. And then we call it rim reads. Okay, so if you have an angle and they're not helping, lay it in, right, or dunk. Like the more you attack the rim, the better. That's why we get to the free throw. But when the help comes, right, if there's a second defender, drop it off. Either drop it off to the big or spray to the perimeter. Those are shots that we value. They have high value, and understanding the value of shots, these are the type of shots we want to get, as many of them as we can. But in the more pressure, the one thing about Mitch, Jericho does the same. They both put a lot of pressure on the rim, which forces the defense to collapse. When the defense does collapse, now it creates easy offense for you.
Quentin, if you lined up Quentin in a sprint, it's not like you would beat every single player in the NBA, but it does feel like every time.
How do you know that?
I guess I don't. I guess you're right, but I probably will never know that.
Small sample size.
Yeah. But it feels like every time somebody runs him off the three-point line, he attacks the closeout and he blows by his defender every time. Why is he able to do that so effectively, basically every time?
Well, I think when you look at quickness, it's both mental and physical. So anticipating what's coming, who's closing to me, how are they closing to me, and he's a better athlete than, he doesn't look maybe like a great athlete, but he is a great athlete. So, but I think his mind, his quickness to anticipate, to read, that's what makes him really good. And he's comfortable with the ball. We knew that he was a playmaker. He played a lot of point coming up in high school, so he's comfortable with the ball. And I think we'll see more and more of that as we go forward.
Mitch didn't look like himself in the San Antonio game, and has since had 2 games where he has looked like himself. How, in your vantage point, how does he respond to that San Antonio game, and what is he like?
Well, that's the challenge, is to keep coming forward, and very quietly he's played at a very high level during the same stretch. When you look at his net rating over the last 15 games, it's really very, very high. And so his impact on the rim, defensively protecting the rim, his pick and roll coverage is terrific. People are always looking for him. And then offensively, I think he's put a lot of extra work in. He's getting more comfortable with the ball. Obviously, you're putting pressure on the rim, rolling, but the offensive rebounding is invaluable to us. It's huge. And then those are big-time multiple effort plays that he's making. And I think when guys do that, whether it's diving for a loose ball, offensive rebound, a hustle type play, that does nothing but unite and inspire your team. So we're feeding off that energy.
How much do you think he influences other teams' shot selection?
Well, I'd say, when you look at the defensive field goal percentage, I think that's a big part of it. I think we were, I don't know, second or third going into tonight, and when he's in there, they're looking around. Where's Mitch? And he's done a much better job. I think last year he improved a lot. This year he's even better of making his decisions in the restricted. And I think that's, he's been the anchor of our defense.
All right, a reminder to everybody coming up here shortly. It is the better half hour. It's obviously a happy coach. They bounced back pretty well after that 5-game losing streak with the win at Houston and the win this afternoon.
Yeah, and you can hear first of all, the reporters asking a lot of questions, trying to, what's working, what's happening right now. But I loved what he said about Mitchell Robinson and his impact and what he does to impact the game that isn't always seen in the box score.
Multiple efforts, that's huge. I mean, and we're seeing that from him. He's taking pride in being the anchor of that defense. It's a beautiful thing.
All right, so we will see you on Wednesday night. The Knicks and the Spurs, a rematch of the game that was played in San Antonio last week. This time the Knicks will try to come away with a win and extend this winning streak to 3 games. Then Friday they are on the road at Toronto. So we'll see you Wednesday night. Knicks and Spurs, pregame 7, game at 7:30. You can also stream our coverage on MSG Go. Coming up next here, as mentioned on MSG, it's the better half hour. Knicks blow out the Suns, 102-83, give up 11 points in the first quarter, give up only 31 points in the first half, and cruise the rest of the way. Jalen Brunson returns with 24. Thanks for watching, everybody, and Happy New Year. The better half hour coming up.